there have been some developments.
Developments?
They are not firm, so Grandy's not going to hit the little button yet. But I'd argue that the button is either going to come here sometime soon, or by the time we get back here tomorrow, maybe we've got official action. Let me take you through what has taken place.
Yeah, as we were having that conversation, I could see you busy as a bee over there.
Yes, there is stuff. There is stuff happening.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the name Liam Cohen?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. He's a coordinator who decided, nah, Jacksonville, I'm good. I don't want your job because you got Balky. I'm out.
But wait. Now they don't have Balky. So, Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator for the Bucs, would you like a reconsideration sensation?
Cha-ching!
And while it is not finalized, the reports are that Cohen was called by the Jags and told, we will pay you Ben Johnson money, and you may hand select your general manager. That changed everything.
You think?
And conversations are now heading, reportedly, toward the finish line. Why are we so excited about that here at 95.7 The Game?
You do look pretty excited.
Because this has reportedly led to the expectation sensation.
Oh, boy. A lot of money this segment.
That the 49ers are poised to rehire Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator for the upcoming season. I will simply read to you what those very close to the 49ers have recently written on Twitter. Mike Silver, 29 minutes ago, quote, I expect the 49ers to rehire Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator soon. He also refutes a report that Saleh was on his way to Jacksonville via plane for a second interview tomorrow, many reporting that he was already there in Jacksonville when this all went down. Mike says Saleh did, in fact, not fly to Jacksonville. He's waiting for this to all unfold, and it now is. Matt Barrows writes, if everything works out for the Niners and they land Robert Saleh as DC, he'll find just two of his former players under contract, Fred Warner and Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
And Fred Warner.
Yeah, good players.
However, we are moving in the right direction if you're a fan of this idea, and the buzz is officially out there in multiple places that it appears the 49ers are on the verge of getting their guy.
That's good. It's exciting. And when he was here as the defensive coordinator, they had a better defense than they did last year. And I'm also glad for Robert Saleh if this, in fact, is how it happened, because I'm picturing him in the offices in Jacksonville, and they get a call, and it's Cohen saying, yeah, I want back in, and then they tell Saleh, get out, pack your things, fly back to San Francisco. So, yeah, if they do wind up with Robert Saleh, that's great. And it will make me less angry, Mark, about the fact that they've been just chilling for 3 weeks.
Well, good. But, again, my argument about this, and by the way, 888-957-9570, Niner fans, let's ride. How does this make you feel? It's not done, but certainly there are those out there I trust who are putting their name right next to the idea that Robert Saleh is about to be the Niners defensive coordinator again. You fired up? You excited? Are you wait and see? Where are you on this? Would love to hear from some of our listeners and 49er fans, as word is they're about to get Robert Saleh back. The point I've been trying to make in the conversation you and I have been having is that the 49ers exercising a little patience or caution or having a plan, not knowing whether it was actually going to work out or not, should not equal passivity. Or as you put it, and some others have, quote, not doing anything. Having the extra time that they were excited about and supposedly looking like they're just twiddling their thumbs, not doing anything. I would argue that, and I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. I just trust that they're not sitting there blowing this off. And if the idea all along was, we really want Robert Saleh, We think he's the guy. We think we have a legitimate shot at getting him. But I'm sure we have also prepared plan B, C, and D. But we're not going to go to plan B, C, and D until we know that plan A is not available. We don't know that yet. And now it looks like plan A is available. Is that not the right way to go about it?
Depends on whether or not plan A actually happens. If Robert Saleh would have had a job offer or taken a head coaching job, I don't believe, or I don't have faith in what their plan B was, because they certainly were not reported to have interviewed a lot of people. Brandon Staley reportedly got an interview, an in-house candidate, and Robert Saleh, I'm sure they had a conversation with him, but outside of that, doesn't feel to me like there was much of a plan B. So, yeah, it worked out. They got the guy they wanted, but if he wouldn't have been available for them to hire, I wonder what their pivot was. And I do believe that they probably had a list of guys.
Yeah, why would you wonder that there isn't a plan B?
Because if the plan B was Brandon Staley, that to me is not a great plan B. And if the plan C was Pete Carroll, you heard a lot of rumors and conjecture about Pete Carroll, 72 years old, him coming in and getting the job.
But who knows? Who knows, right? Who knows if that's really, I have no clue if that's what was on their list.
Right, but I also know that the reporters you just mentioned, who are reputable and close to the situation, none of them were reporting on any other interviews that were happening. So it doesn't feel to me like there was much of a plan B outside of Brandon Staley.
What if Brandon Staley was plan B? Then again, and we can debate this all night long. I do not think that whatever Brandon was charged with doing last year suddenly means he's not a good defensive coordinator, especially when the last time he was a defensive coordinator in the league, they were number one in the league.
It also doesn't mean whatever he did last year means he's a good defensive coordinator.
No, it doesn't. In other words, I think it's irrelevant. I think last year, and the idea of Brandon Staley as a DC, which, by the way, is apparently probably not going to happen, I don't think it's relevant at all as far as can he be a defensive coordinator. I do know, while we're talking about Mike Silver being one of the people who is reporting on this, he's kind of getting into it with people a little bit on Twitter over the last couple of days.
No.
About Brandon Staley. And all he did was he tweeted out a video from last July from a guy by the name of, let's see if you've heard of him, Diamador Lenore.
Yep.
Who referred to Brandon Staley as a, quote, defensive genius, and went through all of the things that he's learned from him. And he said that in July, right before he had a breakout season, which led to $1 gajillion.
Why you not give him the job then? If he's a defensive genius?
I don't know. Maybe Salah is too. I don't know what the fit is. I just think it's very fair for a little bit of a clapback on the idea that we fans, and I'm going to include me in this, that we know the ins and outs of assistant coaches around the league. Just because Brandon Staley's Chargers experience was weird, mainly the thing that we criticized him for was going for it on fourth down. Well, if you're a defensive coordinator, no one even needs to ask you that. You're defense. So don't worry about going for it on fourth down. I just don't find the relevance. That's my only point. I don't think Brandon Staley's a bad defensive coordinator. He's done it once in his life, and it was great.
Right. Then, maybe he doesn't want to go out and get another defensive coordinator job, but you certainly didn't hear a lot of buzz from teams that had a DC opening. There weren't a lot of talk about Brandon Staley getting elevated back to defensive coordinator, and here he was at best your second option because you wanted Robert Saleh to come back. This whole conversation to me boils down to one simple thing that nobody's mentioning, which is you need better players. And this year, whatever Nick Sorensen did or didn't do, he didn't blitz enough. You didn't stop the run. All the other problems this defense had, they were more personnel than they were scheme, in my opinion. And this whole defense they run, a wide 9, which not a lot of teams run a 4-3. Nick Bosa, I think, needs to run a 4-3, 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers.
It's a fair opinion.
If you run a wide 9 and your best defensive player is wide and he is the wide 9, you need the guys in the middle to actually be able to tackle people.
Yes, like I'm not going to say that Nick Bosa can't run the wide nine because they have before, and he was phenomenal.
Right, and he was phenomenal when they had good defensive tackles.
Thank you, yes, and they need to shore that up. There's no question about that. Obviously, they need the Javon Hargrave thing, quite frankly, for angry 49er fans, is the most under-discussed thing that's happened to this team the last 2 years. It was a disaster.
Well, he got hurt.
He got hurt, and before that, he was incredibly unproductive for premium dollars. It's a terrible signing. Did not work.
Yeah.
Total bust.
Well, when this defense was at its best, you had 6 or 7 or 8 defensive linemen who could rotate in, and they all were good, whether it was DJ Jones and Eric Armstead, and you had bodies that you could put in there, and so you didn't rely on just the one guy.
All right, let's hear from some people. Niner fans, let's go. It's not done yet, but it is certainly, there's a very loud drumbeat that the Niners are about to get Robert Saleh back as their defensive coordinator. Jonathan in the city, first up. Thanks for calling, Jonathan. What's going on?
Hey, man, this is a bummer, dude. I thought you were going to say, hey, start scratching because Nikolai's on his way here. And I heard Robert Saleh, and all I can remember is that wasp play that he gave up in the Super Bowl for, because he wanted to play prevent defense. And don't tell me they're going to run the same trash system that gave up 2 10-point lead in the Super Bowl, man. This is just a bomber news, bro.
Well, that's an interesting take, Jonathan. I mean, first of all, don't hang 2 Super Bowl losses around him because he was not here for the second one. And it's interesting that, the play that you're talking about in the first Super Bowl, thank you, Jonathan. What I've heard most 49er fans yell about that through the years is that Nick Bosa was held.
Yeah.
That's what I remember about that play.
Right. And,
not that it was apparently now the defensive coordinator's fault. He was in charge of what was unequivocally the best defense in football that year.
And what we know now is that when you're playing against Kansas City, you're also playing against the officials. So, and that's become, this is from a guy who loves the refs.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if that was such a thing back then, but yes, I hear you.
Got to see a pattern. And, they never call false starts on Kansas City in that Super Bowl, although they did actually call a couple this past weekend. And, they've got their right tackle lining up literally next to the quarterback. He's so far off the line of scrimmage.
That one's a weird deal. Yeah, that one's a weird deal. It's okay, though. Mahomes said this week that they're not getting an advantage.
Yeah, so there you go.
So it's okay.
Yeah, and I love how we always boiled all these games down to just one play.
Of course.
And, Kwaski Tart, if only he would have caught that interception that was thrown right to him, everything would have been different.
That's
one play.
That's the nature of the beast. Of course, you're not wrong. That's the nature of the beast. I think it's another level to do what, for instance, and Jonathan, I love you to death, but to do what Jonathan just did, which is here I am. Hi, my name's defensive coordinator. My defense is the best defense in football. We are marching all the way to the Super Bowl. We dominated teams throughout the playoffs. We got to the end and went against a man who now many think is on a short list for best quarterback of all time, and we held him to 10 points until the fourth quarter, and then there was a bad play, and the dam broke, and we lost the game. And so now I'm an idiot, and I stink at my job.
Right?
Come on, people. I'm thrilled that this is about to happen if it is. This is the guy we've been asking for. First of all, there's a track record. Second of all, it's kumbaya with the rest of the coaching staff because they've already worked together. And third of all, this is the sideline energy that we've been asking for since he left, since DeMeco Ryans left. I don't even necessarily know what that's worth, but I know every fan's been asking for it.
Right.
Where's that juice on the sideline? Well, it's back.
Yeah.
If it happens.
And does that really matter when it comes to getting a stop? I mean, only the players can say.
Yeah, certain players, yes, maybe certain players, no.
Right. I think certain players love to have that rah-rah energy. And, Robert Saleh with the all gas, no brakes tagline. I would love to see that return. I don't necessarily need him going full McVay and pumping his fist and, attaboying guys. I just want to see a defense get back to when they were feared. And this past year, this defense was not feared. This defense was gashed many times.
Let's keep going. 888-957-9570. there is a drumbeat that Robert Saleh is about to be named the defensive coordinator of the 49ers again. How does that make you feel, Niner fans? Rich in Fremont. Hey, Rich, thanks for calling.
Hey, guys, thanks for taking my call. It's been a while since I was able to call in.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to tell you right now, at the end of the day, I don't know what that caller was saying. Bring Robert Saleh to our defense and do it now, okay? Because understand, that defense, when he was there, was crisp. As a matter of fact, when offenses got on the field, they knew, okay? We got a problem. But this defense is tight. It doesn't break. It's not loose. And it accelerates. So if you got a chance to bring Robert Saleh back as a defensive coordinator, you get that done. Okay? You sign him, you get that done, and guess what? You will see a defense rocking, just like it was when he was coaching here. You do not allow him to get away. You make that happen. Thanks, fellas.
Rich, thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
I mean, again, sometimes I think we look at this, and I get it, but like it's a results-based industry. So we look at it, and it kind of goes directly to, okay, what kind of defense does he run, and how's that going to blend right now? What about this? Here's one of the reasons this makes me very, very comfortable, which is, what about the people side of the hire? Like, yes, Matt Barrows is right. There are very few players left from when Robert Saleh was the defensive coordinator, but guess who is still here? The two best players. And so from a leadership standpoint, a connection at the top where you want your organization to all be on the same page. Robert Saleh comes back, stands next to Kyle Shanahan, and runs a defense that is centered around Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. I already know that works. So those people are working together. Does that mean that it's obviously going to be perfect? Of course not. You're right. You need better players in certain spots. But that's comforting to me that leadership group has made music together before.
It worked when you had really good players on the field. And I believe you had Richard Sherman on those teams, and you had Eric Armstead, and you had Dee Ford on one of those teams. And so you look at a defense that ultimately is only as good as the players you put out there. And yes, the coordinator and the scheme. And I do like the idea of, Kyle Shanahan's going to have somebody who he's worked with, and he's going to be comfortable with him. And so you're not starting at square one. When you hired Steve Wilks was not from the Shanahan tree, and so there was a certain amount of a learning curve from Shanahan and Steve Wilks to even figure out what Shanahan wants out of his coordinator. And with Robert Saleh theoretically coming back, it's not confirmed yet, you don't have to start at square one with him.
Absolutely. And I also love, I love that you mentioned Sherman. He was the defensive coordinator when the 49ers went from 2 interceptions in an entire year to then spilling over to being an absolute turnover creation machine that went all the way to the Super Bowl. That was under Robert's watch. I love that. Kurt in Hayward Hills is on the line. Kurt, what are you doing?
Hey!
Hey, fellas. Hey, there's the two boys, the best sports boys in the Bay Area. You got it, boys. And you said it, bring Robert back. I've been saying that tune for a while. Bring him back, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to pay him the most money out of any defense coordinator in the league. You watch. Bring him back, boys. I'm so glad Robert's going to come back. I mean, it's not 100%, but this man had all the kind of things that a defensive coordinator has. Toughness. He was always patting the guys on the back when they get off the field. He is the man, and that's why the 49ers has been waiting for him to come back, fellas. Bring him back, 100%. Don't let anybody call in and say anything different. They don't know what they're talking about.
Kurt?
Yeah.
It's pretty strong. I mean, we don't need to answer those calls. You can answer those calls. We already had one of those calls.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something to Jonathan, who said this is bummer news?
Hello. Let me tell you something, Nick. You're out of here.
All right, Nick, whatever. Hey, Kurt, thank you very much. I think he thought he was actually on the line with Jonathan.
Right.
Jonathan has not been on hold for 22 minutes. I mean, It's all good.
I always give you points for the effort because you always try to get Kurt to that spot.
I'm like, I'm trying to lead everybody to water. I can't make him drink, but, he said his signature line. That's all we really want.
It's the payoff, yeah. What would you say to those callers who aren't happy about the news? Get out of here.
I'd say hello.
Exactly.
Hello. Troy, do you want to say something to Jonathan who said this is bummer news?
Hello.
It's even better the second time.
Hello. Let's go to Troy and Campbell. Hi, Troy. What's good?
Thanks, Willard Dibs. Pleasure to be on with you. I know Jonathan and even the respectful gentleman Kurt, who are on more often than I am with you guys. Love their calls. But yeah, no, I couldn't disagree with Jonathan more. I don't think a personnel thing is an issue. I think the way Salah runs the defense, right, he's going to get the guys in there and put them in position to win. So get out of here with Kurt. Get out of here, Jonathan. Bring Salah back, and let's go.
Troy, thank you very much. Love that. Yeah, I think that this is largely going to be greeted with a lot of excitement. There's comfort there. I only have two concerns, if there's any concerns that you want to throw out there. And one of them's a little bit abstract.
Okay.
The number one concern, the not abstract one, I think really just kind of pairs with what you've already said, which is I don't care who the defensive coordinator is if you don't get another corner and some defensive tackles that are going to plug that middle up and do a better job on the defensive line and probably get somebody, not probably, either Drake Greenlaw re-signs and performs at a high level or somebody else does next to Fred Warner. Robert Saleh can be the DC. Bill Belichick can be the DC. Won't matter if you don't do that. The only other concern I have, and this is the abstract one, I don't know how easy it is to recreate the past. And I think most of the time when people try to do that, it doesn't look like you thought it was going to look. So maybe that's not even really about Robert because he's a good coach. He's a good coach and he's coming to a team, a good franchise, and maybe it'll be great. But usually when you go back home, it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go.
Yeah, and they always say you can't go home again.
Right.
And when you're the coordinator, I think it's a little bit easier, and he knows Kyle and he's worked with him. But your first point is the one that I'm really most focused on. And I also can't help but wonder if this doesn't mean for sure that Drake Greenlaw comes back. And, because Drake Greenlaw, he sure looked like he was going to be playing great when he was healthy for those, 2 quarters or 2.5 quarters. And so he's a guy that Robert Saleh absolutely loved coaching, and he's a guy who thrived here, especially when Robert Saleh was the coach. So to me, it signals that he's coming back, but you mentioned it, a corner, linebacker depth, probably an edge rusher, and at least 2 defensive interior linemen. Well, let's start with that, and then we can all talk about what Robert Saleh can be in his second stint here.